So yeah, first off, let's welcome up Wendy Thienes from Shaunavon.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks for the opportunity to be part of this panel of experts. I'm not sure if what I'm going to share with you today will be new information for anyone. I bet a lot of clubs out there are doing many of the same things and many others. So I certainly wouldn't call myself an expert, but I've simply been taking advantage of some of the opportunities that exist to improve our junior programs, to help build a lifelong love of sport. And I saw a quote this week that said, "The expert in anything was once a beginner." And so I started reflecting too on my beginning years at Central Butte Curling Club. Kurt kind of reflected on his beginner years too. Mine were a few more ago than his. But I know that I clearly remember my own days as a beginner curler and the lessons that I learned, and most of them had nothing to do with skill development. And I remember sitting on the backboard watching my older sisters practice because I wasn't old enough to play. Back then it seemed like, you had to be 12 before you could even step on the ice. And now we start them at 5 or 6. We played with adult teams in the evening leagues because Mom and Dad were at the rink anyway, so you might as well be out there too. Playing with those adults taught me some of the most important things, both skill-based and how to interact socially with people of all ages. Our equipment wasn't the greatest, so I started with a corn broom and makeshift sliders. I remember taping electrical tape onto the bottom of my runner before every game as a makeshift slider. But it was okay, it didn't matter. Ice conditions weren't as consistent, but it didn't matter either, and it was a memorable challenge at times, especially that natural ice. Back then everyone curled, or at least curled once a year in the club bonspiel, and even our high school bonspiels then involved the entire student body, and that's really changed. But we learned that everybody could curl. And if your league team needed a curler, you didn't have to find your own. We had people whose volunteer job was to manage the spare list. I remember my mom doing that and making phone call after phone call on behalf of other teams until she found a sub for one team and then moving down the list and finding it for the next. We weren't very responsible back then for our own actions, but it taught me a lot about volunteerism at its very best. Teams for bonspiels were made by drawing names out of a hat. There's no clicks allowed. You curled with whoever. So my experience as a beginner showed me the importance of having fun, meeting new people, and that you didn't need the best new equipment or the best ice conditions, and that everyone could play and that everyone had to get involved and work hard so that your curling club could operate. So these are some of the same lessons that I think we should be instilling in our junior curlers, and the lessons that have made me an expert of sorts to come and talk to you today. So based on my experience, I wanted to go through what I consider to be the straight A's of a successful junior curling program. And you're going to see a number of photos on the screen over here from our junior curling program, so you can just start those rolling whenever. And just as I'm talking, feel free to kind of look through them, and I'm going to speak to a few of them as I go along here. But the first A in my mind is assistants, aka our volunteers. So there's no way that I would take this on by myself. You always need volunteers, and the more the better. There's very few people that will sort of commit to managing the program and taking that on and committing for the season. But even if you can get people to help you for a week or two here or there. So many of my volunteers do have ties to the children in our programs, but some do not. They simply love the game and love kids. My volunteer crew includes a grandfather, a grandmother, a father/school principal, a couple of our higher level curlers with no ties to the kids specifically, and a couple of parents who no longer have children in the program but believe in the we just include that with their fee for the season and try to get everybody out to participate that as well, and they do. We provide brooms and sliders, as I'm sure most clubs do, for those who don't have them. We don't have to use electrical tape anymore, so that's good. But money is absolutely not a barrier for them. Other fundraising activities by the club and grant programs available for junior programs offset any cost that might go beyond what registration fees cover. The third would be the assistance provided by CURLSASK and their sponsors. So a big shout out to all the staff at the office, and Matt especially, who makes it really easy to to get involved with these programs. It reminds us that they're there and to get the forms in and all that good stuff. But things that we've utilized is certainly participating in that hit, draw, and tap competition for the past 2 years, and we've had curlers move on to provincials in each of those 2 years from our club. Viterra Fun Curl Grant, it subsidizes our program. 2 years ago we took the crests that they have available and bought toques for everybody and had them apply to the toques and gave out to all the kids. So it's a great help to kind of offset some of those costs. We try to host junior events, so we've hosted juveniles and we've attended the same elsewhere. So when you live in rural Sask, it's sometimes harder to find enough committed juniors to form a committed team to take on the road for competitive purposes. But the year that we hosted juveniles, we had a local team enter as the host team, and that sort of ignited a spark in other curlers locally. And so the next year they entered a team as well in the open division and went to provincials and had a really good experience there and realized that they weren't so far off the playing field with other teams in the province. We hosted the Affinity Curl in Your Community workshop, so Brian, he was here. Brian came out, hey Brian, he came out to Shaunavon not so long ago to do a clinic for adults, but we tagged that onto a high school curling clinic as well. So taking the kids to local U15 bonspiels in the area, taking a group of kids, we've gone to a September clinic in Regina. Our season doesn't start till mid-November, so trying to lengthen their season by getting them out of town into a clinic like that earlier in the season. And a couple of coaches and myself have also implemented what we call boot camp for our high school teams, because the high school doesn't start their program until, in all earnesty, January sometimes, which I'm working on. But so we've just offered this boot camp to kind of get them out early in the season, throwing some rocks and get them conditioned. And there's many other opportunities, and I'm sure lots of you have utilized other opportunities that CURLSASK has as well. But those opportunities are there, and so just make sure that your clubs are aware of those programs for the juniors and that they utilize them, because they're super easy to utilize. They make it really easy. So the next A would be accessibility. So our program is currently for ages 6 and up. When I took over the program with another parent 9 years ago, our kids were 7 at the time. And for many years, the starting age in our club was 8. So we dropped it to 7 so that our own kids could get involved. And then we've further dropped it to 6. We use sometimes the little rocks we have, or we play short games like corners with the youngest curlers. Lots of different options for those youngest ones out there. We also purchased our own floor curl set a few years back, and so I've taken that into gym class at both of our elementary schools and done workshops there to create interest. One of our coaches, as I mentioned, is a school principal, and he's also taken that and used it in gym class on his own as well. And there's definitely been spin-off from that, so we've sparked an interest there for kids who otherwise might not be getting over to the curling rink. It seems like there's maybe almost a generation of parents that really don't know a lot about curling or don't curl regularly. So we're hitting those kids, and we're also hitting those newcomer kids to our community. There's lots of them in school, and that dry land experience is an easy way for them to experience what is a very foreign sport to them. We run our program just 1 day per week. There's so many other activities that kids are involved in, and we recognize that. But that is one aspect of our program which we could alter a bit to try to increase participation, run it twice a week, try weekends, and I know you all have things that you're doing that work well. But we find that that's what works for us. It's Monday after school. And then the next A would be awards and acknowledgement. So of course there's the treats that we hand out at Christmas and year end. Food, they love food. One of our coaches consistently pays out a toonie every week, so everybody wants to be in Kevin's group because they know there's a toonie involved for the draw to the button at the end of the day. We'd be sure to thank our coaches and our ice maker, get them little recognition gifts, and then for the kids we've implemented 2 awards. We have the Shaw Sportsmanship Award, which is named in honor of one of our older coaches who still comes out and helps us when he can, when he's not having a hip replaced or something of that nature, but Ken Shaw is a great help and a good sportsman, and he was named Shaunavon Citizen of the Year a few years back, so that was our way of recognizing him. The club implemented the Shaw Sportsmanship Award for the junior program. And then we have the Bob Wilkins Proficiency Award, And Bob, many of you here probably remember Bob, and he is our most decorated curler out of Shaunavon, I think. And after he passed away, we implemented a proficiency award in his honor, and he was a coach of the junior program for decades. We try to keep our program action-packed. So a lot of the photos that you're seeing here, there's Ken. A lot of the photos are of our year-end wind-up. That's actually, I gotta give all credit due to our ice maker, Kent Algren, and our manager. He creates all of these fun games that you're seeing in the photos. So the human curling with the blow-up bowling pins, the zombie curling, the kids love this zombie. When you throw the rock through and it hits the right spot, the zombie lights up and moves and scares them, and it's great fun. Stick curling with the hockey nets, and he's built, he didn't do it this year, but he's built a mini golf course on sheet 4, because that sheet's kind of awful anyway, so he built this mini golf course on there, and it's very elaborate, and the kids really thoroughly enjoy that final wind-up. So, as far as action-packed, time is spent on skill development, but we try to just get them into game situations as quickly as possible so that they're moving and can get right into the thick of things. So I think an important A is interacting with adults. So juniors that have moved into high school now, they formed a team to curl in our evening adult league. So we have a team of 6 that come out now on Thursday nights to curl, which is something that was missing. I'm sure there's clubs here that have that going on too, but it was missing in our club for a while. So now we have some of those teenagers coming out to curl regularly in the adult league. We have family spiels, so we've kind of moved away from strictly a junior spiel to hosting family spiels where the adults can come out and curl with the kids. Our rule, I believe, is just that there has to be one adult on each team. So it kind of covers off some safety issues potentially, having an adult on each sheet, and everybody seems to really like that. They've come out consistently to participate in those family spiels, and there's prizes, and it's just for fun. Sometimes it's actually been part of Family Day in February, or combined with local event like I Love Shaunavon Day. So it kind of gets the whole community out just to give it a try. And it's just like 3 2-end games, so it's easy to try it. High school teams entering local bonspiels like the ladies and the farmers. And there's definitely some photos that you've seen of teams that have done just that. There's a team, a boys team that you'll see there on a different slide, but they are paired up with a team of seniors, and it worked out the one event where they had to play that team of seniors. So it was the youngest playing the oldest, and then afterwards they're up in the lounge enjoying some social time together, and so that was pretty neat to see. So again, mixing with adult curlers really is the biggest memory I have of my junior curling days. And the adults are excited to see the kids out there, and they're really willing to provide instruction and tips, and the kids enjoy being part of the bonspiel environment. They're up there playing cards and cribbage right along with everybody else afterwards, and that's where they are learning that social aspect of the sport that's so important. The final A that I would touch on, and Kirk also talked about this a bit, was the access to the pros. So it's much easier to have access to the pros now. We were the grand prize winner last year of the Core Grain Community Rocks, and Kirk and company came out there, and it was a great time, and they're so great with the kids. And I think a lot of those competitive curlers have that same passion and know where they came from and want to give back to the sport. Other examples are the Junior Star program for various national competitions, the Prairie Land Curling Camp, where they have guest pros in as well. And so we promote these opportunities to our juniors and encourage them to apply. And my own kids have been fortunate to participate in all of those things. And so that's sort of my straight A's of junior programs. Again, I don't think I probably shared a whole lot of new stuff, but that's what we're doing. It seems to work. We're building our numbers. So our juniors from age 6 to 12, there's about 35 of those kids that come out regularly. And then we have another dozen to 15 in the high school program that, although I'm not the high school coach, I sort of infiltrate their program and show up at a lot of their practices. And it's those kids that we're now seeing move into the adult leagues and that sort of thing. So I just want to touch on one other connected topic, and that is the newcomers as new participants for us. So we have a lot of newcomers in the province. So I mentioned the floor curl in schools has exposed newcomer children to the sport, but I've had several newcomers in recent years approach me about learning to curl from South Africa and doctors that are from other countries, and this year I had a couple from Venezuela that was new to town approach me about wanting to learn to curl. And so when Brian came out with his workshop, Eugenio and Basti participated, and you'll have seen their picture somewhere along the way here. And with just a few simple instructions from Brian, Basti's first rock landed in the house. And they were so excited. And so if we apply the same principles from junior programs to a newcomer program, I think we could find a number of new curlers out there. They're interested, they're really curious about this provincial sport of ours. So it maybe should be mandatory that all newcomers have to learn about curling. So finally, I just want to say, how do we know if our junior programs are having an impact? Do these kids really care? Will they continue on with the sport? Well, some will and some won't, and some will leave and return as young adults once all the high school sports and hockey dreams have ended. And we're seeing that happening as well. We have a number of 20-somethings that are joining those evening leagues and coming back after many years away. I think that I'm also a piano teacher, and I think there's always two things that people regret in life that I hear often, and it's, I should have kept taking piano lessons, and I should have learned to curl. So they do come back. But if we can ignite a spark in every kid that passes through our program, even if you create an everlasting passion in just a handful of those junior curlers, then I think we've done our job. And so I wanted to close just by touching on some of the photos that you've seen today of a young curler who created his own outdoor rink on the creek by their farm, along with various models of makeshift rocks. Apparently his latest model of cement looked really great, but broke apart upon contact and impact. And he plays with altered rules, he tells me. If a rock hits an animal during its motion, it's still in play. So Ryland is a diehard, along with his friend Dylan. They play fearlessly, they play well. They're in grade 9 and have been curling since they were 7 years old. And next year they'll be key players on our high school team for the next 3 years. Both willingly sub for any adult team at any time. And if Ryland's dedication is any indicator, he'll still be curling when he's 90. So that outdoor rink and those cute little rocks is really how I gauge the success of our program. And so back in 2014, at the opening ceremonies in Shaunavon Kirk, I stood there and said, I am quite confident that there's a team in front of us here that will be the next Brier champion, break the drought. And I still think that person, maybe different team, is probably still in this room. But if it's not you, it might be Ryland. There he is. So that's what I just wanted to share about some of the thoughts I had about curling, junior curling program, and some of the things we've done. And so I'd love to chat with anybody later if you have any questions for me right now. And if you're curious about all those games we play at the wind-up, just contact Kent at Shaunavon Curling Club. Maybe he'll rent out the zombie, I don't know. But thanks.